Call this meeting of the State Government Committee to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone here and appreciate you being here. And with that, if the clerk would please take the roll.
Representatives Alexander, Beck, Bricken, Butler, Carringer, Chisholm, Dixie, Haston, Holsclaw, Hurt, Jernigan, Johnson, Leatherwood, Littleton, McCalman, Miller, Powell, Powers, Rudder, Terry, Vice Chairman Eldridge,
Here.
Chairman Kiesling, Vice Chairman Eldridge, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get it started on the bills before us today, does any of the members have any personal orders? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and get started with our first bill. First on the agenda today is House Bill 1217 by Chairman Zachary. Got a motion and a second, Chairman, and I believe you've got a couple of amendments there.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Got drafting code 5769.
5769, and it does rewrite the bill without objection. We'll go ahead and add that to the amendment to the bill. I need a motion and a second, please. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of adding amendment 5769 to the bill, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Chairman, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Members, I'm honored to bring this on behalf of Speaker Sexton. Members, this is the Higher Education Capital Project Modernization Act. That is a mouthful, and so I had to read that to make sure I got it right. Members, what this is going to do is streamline the process surrounding construction, renovation, and maintenance of our public education facilities. Let me be clear, this legislation cuts the red tape and the bureaucracy around projects that are not appropriated, not funded with appropriated state dollars. This is strictly related to projects that are privately funded by private donors or gifts, or funded by auxiliary projects on campus, which primarily would be housing. The benefit to this bill, whether it's Memphis, MTSU, ETSU, Austin Peay, whomever it may be, again, it will streamline the process related to housing primarily, and then University of Tennessee athletics would fall under that. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go just quickly section by section through the bill to hopefully address any questions that may be out there, and then I'll certainly be glad to answer any questions. Members, in section 1, that is the section that provides for each of these institutions, their boards, to be the sole approval authority for capital projects, again, that are funded with private dollars, not state dollars, funded with private dollars. The institutions must still continue to follow the State Building Commission policy. It clarifies that the net increases is extremely important. It clarifies that the net increase of square footage is not eligible for maintenance with state dollars. It also requires quarterly reporting and will increase transparency. Section 2 is related to the bonding process. A perfect example of this is Lindsey Nelson Stadium. The University of Tennessee has had that money on hand, and they're now roughly 18 months into a process that, once this legislation passed, would cut that to 3 months. Again, they have the money in hand, but because of the bureaucratic process that they're having to go through, it's extended that to almost 18 months. And so if this legislation had been in place, it would cut that to 3 months. So that's section 2. Section 3 is the transparency portion. Currently, there is no mechanism for our constituents and the people across the state to look at the projects that are being funded by higher ed. So this will create that transparency by requiring those projects to be on the website of each of these institutions. So again, whether it's Memphis, ETSU, Tennessee, MTSU, constituents and people across the state will be able to review those projects. Section 4 is related to procurement agencies. That does not change. That stays as is. Section 5 is important for our smaller institutions, such as Austin Peay or MTSU or ETSU. It increases the maintenance and renovation threshold from $250,000 to $1 million. So currently, if let's just say MTSU has an HVAC issue and they need to spend $255,000, they go over that $250,000, they have to go through the entire process with the State Building Commission. And so what we're doing is taking that 250 up to $1 million. So for our larger institutions, they'll be able to immediately respond to a roofing issue, an HVAC issue, whatever it may be, without having to go through that process that slows it down. And then also in section 6, it mirrors that, but it's an aggregate of a 6-month period. And that would be for our smaller institutions, because currently if they spend over $250,000 in a 6-month period, it triggers that review process through the State Building Commission. And so that also takes that up to $1 million. So members, that is the section by section explanation. Again, the whole goal of this, as we talked about in appropriations on Monday when we had ETSU President Nolan here and University of Tennessee President Randy Boyd, it is to streamline the process. Some of these steps have been in place since the 60s. And so this removes the bureaucracy and ensures, again, institutions from Memphis to Tennessee across the board are able to address their projects that are funded privately or through auxiliary projects. They're able to address those in a much more efficient manner. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yes,
and
sir.
We'll open it up for questions. And first we have Chairman Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman. And this is an awesome bill. I think it streamlines everything, makes it more efficient. But you mentioned Speaker Sexton. Did you need his weight to get this across the finish line?
You're recognized, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Holtzclaw, that's a really good question. I appreciate you asking. Anytime you have Speaker Sexton's name at the front of the list, it certainly helps the bill. And so I'll take it on every single one of my pieces of legislation if I can. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our list, we have Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Zachary, for clarification again, these are private dollars that will build and construct whatever on these facilities.
Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, 100%. Yes, sir. This is only related to private dollars. The continued process through the State Building Commission for appropriated state dollars, public funds stays as is. This is strictly for private dollars that are gifts, donations, or funds that are generated. Memphis would be the one in particular, funds that are generated from their housing. They're then able to use those and reinvest those in projects, but it's strictly private dollars or auxiliary funded project dollars, which auxiliary projects are housing, money generated from housing. The institution would then be able to take those and use those dollars to streamline a process to build additional housing projects on campus.
You're recognized, Representative Miller.
So with these private dollars, the states will still own the property. The institutions will continue to own the property.
Chairman. you're
Yes, sir,
recognized.
without question. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm certainly going to support the bill, but I have a question. It just seems like it's going to be very hard and difficult to identify the flow of all the monies in all these larger institutions. It's kind of like a shell game. I'm not sure who really will monitor it and report when, I'm going to say, maybe an institution goes out of violation of the funding of it. I mean, it's a big, kind of like a big shell game of money that's being moved around in all these institutions. I'm just having trouble figuring out who's going to ever monitor it.
Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The boards at each one of these institutions, they still have to go through the approval process of the board at each one of these institutions. And that's the reason I referenced in section 3, that is the transparency section. So if you read through section 3, never before has there been a website or this information reported for these type projects. Again, Lindsey Nelson Stadium at University of Tennessee is a perfect example. That information will now have to be publicly reported, which before it has not. And again, this is private dollars, and so never before has there been a transparency mechanism for that. But we still have to go through the process of approval with each board, with each institution, whether it's Tennessee, Memphis, ETSU, whomever it may be. And then there's a reporting mechanism, but then also there's still the requirements and some of the restrictions with the State Building Commission that still apply. It's just we're streamlining and cutting down the process again, that it could be an 18-month process. We'll take it down to 3 months.
Just a follow up if
You're
I could.
recognized.
The private dollar capital projects, I can certainly understand. It's these auxiliary projects where I think things could get muddy, and that's the only thing that gives me some concern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And well, also Representative Bricken, they still have to report quarterly to the State Building Commission. So again, none of that changes. Again, there is additional transparency and reporting that we are now actually including that does not exist today. So what you're talking about today, I'm not going to dive into the archaic process they have today, but there is certainly not the level of transparency. If you wanted to be able to go and look and see where these dollars are flowing right now, it would be more of a challenge for you to pull that information up. Once this legislation passes and the requirement in Section 3, you will actually be able to go in and look at the website and see when the money was donated, how the money is allocated, and you cannot do that today. With this legislation, you'll be able to.
All right. Any other questions for the sponsor? Question's been called on the bill. We are voting on House Bill 1217 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, sir. You move on out to calendar and rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
I'd say it's got a pretty good shot there, don't it? Next up, we have item number 2, House Bill 324 by Speaker Marsh. We have a motion and a second, and I believe you've got an amendment as well.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Amendment 4850.
Okay. We've got there was another amendment filed to 5569. Do you have that one by any chance, Speaker?
Yes, sir. That's a technical correction. It's basically the same thing. So
Okay, that's fine. That's the one we'll need to go with on that one. So, and it does rewrite the bill. So with that objection, we'll need a motion and a second on the amendment. And without objection, we'll vote to go ahead and add it to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And the amendment is on the bill. So Speaker, you're recognized.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 324 is from the administration and does a lot of great things for helping the state with retention and being able to recruit new employees and keep the great ones that we already have. It has basically 3 different parts. This amendment provides employees with 12 weeks of paid parental leave for the birth or adoption of a child in accordance with existing FMLA guidelines. It also changes how existing sick and annual time is granted to state employees. Currently, their time is accrued month to month. This would provide employees with their time off up front for 1 year for new employees or for the service anniversary date for existing employees. The second item is it changes the definition of voluntary benefits for state employees to allow for the state to pay for portions or all of the employee's match for certain benefits. This will allow for the state to pay for 50% of the employee's match for dental care and 100% of the employee's match for long-term disability. And third, this legislation cleans up ambiguity in the existing language for non-TCRS retirement plans managed by the state so that these employees can continue to access the health care benefits that they're currently eligible for. With that, I will answer any questions. We do have some people from the department and from the governor's staff here to answer any questions if we need to.
Okay. All right. You've heard the explanation of the bill. Speaker Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaker Marsh, is the legislature fully removed from this bill, or are we still left in?
The way I understand it, the legislature is removed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Okay, Representative Beck. Oh, sorry, I missed. That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Representative Beck.
Okay,
Yeah.
just very quickly. Thank you, Speaker Marsh. Quick question. I've been contacted by several state employees that apparently right now, when they take their maternity leave, they have to use up their sick time and their annual leave. Under this, it will be a separate payment, and they will not, the way I read it, they will not be docked for their sick leave and annual leave. Is that correct, Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is correct. The way I understand it, this is an additional benefit. They will not have to use their personal or sick leave days if they have a child or adoption. You're correct.
Fantastic. And the second question, just more of a comment. In today's job market, this so many corporations, as soon as you come on board, you have automatic annual time or vacation time. It's so competitive now that I'm glad to see this bill is really bringing the state into a competitive position in the job market. Thank you very much for bringing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, we have Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to my representative to the right, I'm going to take the opposite path a little bit here. First of all, it's a good bill, and I hate to always sound like someone like a Grinch when it comes down to benefits and wages, but this is a bill I certainly would have liked to have seen broken apart so we could have voted on some of the separate pieces separately. But on the paid maternity and adoption leave, again, I haven't done a survey, but I know very often in the private sector, the employee's sick pay and personal leave time is used in conjunction with that. So it's kind of like having some skin in the game when they're taking 4 months off for a birth of a baby. And it's not trying to be harsh to the employee. It's just kind of makes sense. But I know that is often the practice in the private sector, to use up your personal time and sick leave as part of your maternity leave. And I certainly would like to have seen that in the bill, not, I'm going to call it the very generous of paying the full leave and leaving the sick time and personal time off the table. So again, it's one of the bills I certainly would like to have seen broken apart. It's going to be hard to vote against this because it's probably going overall in the right direction. I just think there's things that I would have liked to seen modified. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bricken. And I too see some of your concern, and I've talked to the department about the money on the 12 weeks, because that's, they're going to get quite a bit of money, but their position on that is they're already got that budgeted. The person is already working for the state. They're already on the payroll, and they're going to pay them through the 12 weeks. And hopefully they don't have to hire another person to take their spot while they're off. So you're really not, if you look at it like that, it's not costing us anything. Although sometimes you probably will have to hire somebody to fill in, but that's not the plan.
Chairman Bricken.
I'll follow you there. And again, this is a very generous benefit. I mean, it covers both spouses. So, I mean, of course, old school was just the mother, and this is mother and father. So again, it's an awful generous benefit.
Thank you, Representative. Next up, we have Chair Lady Littleton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend you for this, and especially for adding adoption into it. We've really been studying adoption and trying to make it easier and a better way for parents to adopt children. And thank you for putting them in on this.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you.
Next, we have Representative Dixie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Speaker, for bringing this bill. I think it's a much needed overdue bill. I think that some of the comments that we've heard, we're assuming that every child is going to be born healthy and there's not going to be any problems after 4 months. But sometimes if you've had children, they get sick, things come up, parents get sick, things happen. So even if they were to use their accrued leave or vacation time or paid time off during those first 4 months to help get to that, what happens after that 4 months when the baby's sick or have some kind of infection or have to go take the doctor's appointments or things of that nature? That's when I think the paid time off that has been accrued kicks in. So I think this is, when you say generous, I wouldn't say it's a generous bill, but I think it's a much needed bill. And I think it's something that is going to help benefit a lot of Tennesseans. And thank you for the forward thinking to make this happen, because it's come a long way to just even get to this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dixie. And it's not my forward thinking, it's our governor's, because we're having such a hard time hiring good people and keeping good people in the state. And I think this is certainly a huge step. I think a lot of people want to come to work for the state now with this, in my opinion.
All right. Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for this bill. I just want to confirm, eligible employee means they've already worked for the state for 1 year, 12 months. Right?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for the sponsor? Question is, we're seeing none. We're going to be voting on House Bill 324 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, sir. And you will be heading out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Representative Miller.
committee.
Pardon? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am out of order. I just wanted to recognize our Congressman Tim Burchett, state of Tennessee, and it's been the second or third time I've seen him since we've been in session. He appreciates spending some time down here with us.
Thank you. And after redistricting, Tim and I share a county up there, so I'm proud to have that association with him as well. So, thank you. And, Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's what I was going to do too, is he is my congressman too. And I think he has a new Carhartt jacket on too today. So we're glad to have him here, and he's looking good.
Thank you. Next up is Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I have to say something about my congressman. Known him for many, many, many years, and also was very honored to serve as commissioner when he was the mayor of the great county, Knox County in Tennessee. So also want to say thank you to his great assistant out there, Michael Grider, who gets him to where he's supposed to be on time. And also without a great assistant, our congressman wouldn't be nearly as good. So thank you, Michael, for all you do. And it's always great to see you, Congressman.
Congressman, we appreciate you being here. Next on the agenda is item number 3, House Bill 191 by Chairman Holtzclaw. Got a motion and a second. And Chairman,
We do have an amendment,
you have an amendment.
drafting code 5021,
5-0, motion and a second on the amendment.
and it does make the bill.
It makes the bill. So without objection, we'll vote to add the amendment to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is on the bill, sir, and you are recognized.
Thank you, members. Basically, HB 191 is our annual premier result omnibus bill, and it identifies 29 specific locations for that title. So with that, I renew my motion.
All right, you've heard the explanation. Is there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, we're voting on House Bill 191 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, sir, and you are headed to Finance.
Thank you, Chairman Committee.
Thank you. Next up is item number 4 by House Bill 1043 by Chairman Bricken. We have a motion and a second. And no amendments, is that correct?
No, sir.
All right, and so you are recognized on your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the Sports Gaming Act was passed in 2019, we added a provision that set aside 5% of the state's annual proceeds from gambling for gambling addiction treatment under the Department of Mental Health. This bill will just allow the Department of Mental Health to use the funds not needed for gambling addiction to be used for juvenile addiction and mental health disorders. And it's in priority. The bill specifically says the Department of Mental Health must use the funds for gambling addiction first, and only to the extent they have funds left over will it go to juvenile addiction and mental treatment disorders. So with that, I'll certainly answer any questions.
All right, you've heard the explanation of the bill. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're going to be voting on House Bill 1043. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Sir, you move out to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
All right, next up on our agenda is House Bill 572 by Chair Lady Carringer. Chair Lady, you're recognized. Motion and a second, and I don't see an amendment on this bill, so you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. This House Bill 572 was brought to me by our Treasury Department, and the summary of this bill, it authorizes the state treasurer to sell or otherwise liquidate a security between 8 and 12 months after receiving the security if the state treasurer determines the security to have a de minimis value. Defines de minimis value as the market aggregate. Also authorizes the state treasurer to sell a security immediately after the state treasurer takes custody of the security if the records of the security holder do not reflect the identity of the person entitled to the security. It's also anything that equals less than $500. Because the Unclaimed Property Division currently holds 1,096 securities with a value of $500 or less. So it is really costing our state money to hold these that much longer. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Is there any questions of the sponsor? Seeing none, we're going to be voting on House Bill 572. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. And Chair Lady, you move out to Finance, Ways and Means. Next up is item number 6, House Bill 1102 by Chair Lady Littleton. We have a motion and a second, and Chair Lady, I see there is an amendment on your bill.
Yes, there is.
All right, 3944.
That's it.
And motion, we have a motion and a second, and the amendment does rewrite the bill. So with that objection, we'll go ahead and add it to the bill. All in favor of adding amendment
I think we're on the
3944 to the bill, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is on the bill, and Chair Lady, you're recognized.
I think we're on the wrong. I think I had 572, no, 1102 first.
Pardon? 1102.
There's, okay. I don't think there was an amendment on this there. I'm going to take it. Oh, okay, I'm going to take it off notice anyway, but I'd like to just say a little bit about it, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry for that. Actually, we are noticing a lot of children drinks. They're putting alcohol in them. It made it to the Good Morning America, but we couldn't get this bill together. But I don't think they need to be putting alcohol in Sunny D or Capri Suns or even some of the soft drinks. But we couldn't get this bill together. But I do want to work on it because I'm very passionate about it. So I just like to take it off notice and bring it back next year.
All right. With that objection, House Bill 1102 is off notice. And next up is item number 7. It's House Bill 867, also by Chair Lady Littleton. We have a motion. We have a second. And I don't see an amendment on this one. Is that correct?
No,
Or
it has an
wait a
amendment.
minute. Yes, there is. I'm sorry.
It's 4944.
4944, and it does rewrite the bill. With that objection, we'll add the amendment to the bill. All in favor of adding amendment 4944 to the bill, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is on the bill, and Chair Lady, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you guys will remember, not too long ago, there was a van called Von Lane outside on the second floor exit and entrance, and it's a very nice bus that will be able to take people from the airport to Atlanta, eventually Memphis, Knoxville, and Chattanooga. And currently, Von Lane is operating a BYOB model in Tennessee because there is no applicable permit in Tennessee law. The bill will allow qualifying coaches to provide the same level of service and experience on land as the counterparts in the sky and water, while also providing safety aspects of trained attendant in a controlled and secure environment. And the amendment that clarifies that a company would not be able to sell alcohol drinks during charter trips, clarifies a definition of galley for preparing food. So they're going to serve food on these buses, and also sets a four drink limit with the amendment. And ABC has helped with this amendment. So we think this bus will help take a lot of people off the road and give them a comfortable ride to Memphis and Atlanta and Knoxville and Chattanooga at once more buses are added.
Okay, you've heard the explanation, and we'll open up for discussion. So Representative Carringer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted it to go on record because we have received a lot of emails for and against it, that the bus does have to travel at least 100 miles one way. And sponsor, I noticed I was told that it was going to be a 3-drink limit. I noticed you said 4 drinks. So I just wanted to clarify which that is, and that also they are serving food. So just wanted to let people know that this is not a bus that's going to be traveling around Nashville here. And a lot of people have concerns with them being on the interstate and serving drinks, but they will have the ABC, can monitor it, and they will have someone that is to serve the drinks versus kind of what a lot do now is bring their own. So hopefully this will actually make it safer, but I did want to clarify the limit on drinks that they were allowed to serve.
Chair Lady Lisbon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to clarify that right now they can bring their own bottle on there. Any alcohol that they want, they can bring that on there. And food will be served. And yes, they have to go 100 miles out from the city. And the amendment we worked with ABC, and we were suggesting 3 drinks, and they're the ones that said 4. So that's why the 4 is there.
Okay, next up we have Representative Alexander.
Sponsor, just making sure that once we put this law in effect, they will no longer be able to bring their open containers, just like if you were on a plane, you can't bring your own alcohol.
Chair Lady.
That is correct. They can bring it on, but it has to be closed, and they cannot use their own alcohol. So it will be safer because they will have a drink limit.
And there's some control. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other questions of the sponsor? Question's been called on the bill, so we're voting on House Bill 867 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and you're headed out to finance, Chair Lady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
All right, next up, we have item number 8, House Bill 1151 by Chairman White. Do we have a motion? Motion and a second. And I believe you do have an amendment on the bill. Is that correct?
We're working on 4707.
4707 is correct, and it does rewrite the bill. So without objection, we'll vote to add the amendment to the bill. All in favor, please. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have a motion and a second on the amendment. All right, now we're ready. We're voting on adding the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is on the bill, sir, and Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Committee. Where this bill comes from, Senator Hale, if you were in his office any time last summer and fall, a wall about this size right here, he had about 100 post-it notes creating a flow chart because he's very interested in how we help our foster families, our adoptive families, and our new families. And so this bill comes from part of his legislative package around that. And what it does is it grants state employees the ability to take time off to care for their sick child using the sick bank, which supports families. Now, if you don't know what the sick bank is, the state has where employees can donate their comp time into the sick bank. And then those who have special needs can draw down. There's a whole process how you do that. You apply for it. Then those who have extended sicknesses can draw off that sick bank if they are a part of that. Now, the current law restricts or prohibits the grants of sick leave for any illness of a family member, such as a minor child. So what this would be put in place, this bill allows sick leave to be used by a member on account of an illness of a minor child, such as where he's coming, especially if you are an adoptive parent. We want more people to adopt children, foster care. If you have a child that has a long-term illness, such as cancer or whatnot, that they would be able to draw down for that minor child. That's keyword, minor child. They'd be able to draw off that sick bank to help them while they care for that child. Right now, it's only for the employee, but this would add a minor child. And so from that, that's where he's trying to get at, is to help families support their children.
All right. We've heard the explanation of the bill. Is there any questions for the sponsor? I see none, so we're ready to vote on House Bill 1151 as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. You're
Thank
headed
you.
to calendar and rules, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up's item number 9, House Bill 1453 by Chairman Faison. We have a motion. We have a second. And Chairman, I believe you do have an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I do have an amendment that writes the bill.
All right, sir. 4724.
Yes, sir.
All right. It does rewrite the bill, so without objection, we'll vote to add it. I do need a motion and a second. We have the motion and a second. We'll be adding the amendment to the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, sir. You're on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, recently in the last several years, the bear population in East Tennessee has grown exponentially. It's grown enough that they're starting to see bear population in the Cumberland. Where I live, I border the national park. Many of us that border the national park are consistently 365 days a year, especially on winters like this when it doesn't get real cold. Bears will come and just wreak havoc where you live, destroy your car, kill your animals, mess up your house. The law is not completely clear that when the bear not season, you have the ability to shoot a bear if it's not coming after you. This bill will clarify that, if y'all let me allow it to get past that place for anybody who borders the national park. They can kill a bear who is destroying their property or killing their animals or trying to get in their house.
All right. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Are we ready to vote on House Bill 1453 as amended? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Sir, you're headed to calendar and rules.
Thank you, sir. I was stressed.
Okay. All right. Next up. He's going to do it. Yeah. Okay. Next up's item number 10, House Bill 537. And need a motion and a second. Motion and a second. And Chairman, I don't see an amendment on this one. So you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, as members know, the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency sells lifetime sportsman license. It's probably some of us have purchased them for our children and grandchildren. Last session, we passed legislation allowing the principal of those license purchases to be held in an endowment trust that would be overseen by the state treasurer, the commissioner of F&A, and the TWRA director. We did this to provide greater returns on the principal of the trust. This bill is making one change to the legislation from last year that allows the agency the flexibility to use the funds from new purchases of lifetime licenses for current operating expenses while still providing flexibility to maintain investments for the future services of lifetime license holders.
Right. We've heard the explanation. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we'll be voting on House Bill 537. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, sir. Finance, Ways and Means. Okay. All right. Sorry for the delay. Next up's item number 11, House Bill 1362 by Chairman Farmer. We have a motion and a second. And Chairman, I believe there's a couple of amendments you're working with.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. They don't rewrite the bill, but they add to it and also clarifies one thing that was just left out that's in current practice. So I'll, at the will of the committee and the chair, whether or not we want to go ahead and adopt those before I explain them, or I could work through it, whatever you want me to do.
Okay. Without objection, we've got a couple of amendments we need to vote on, and then we'll need to vote to roll them into one. Okay. All right. First up is amendment with drafting code 5813. All in favor of adding, or we need a motion and a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, we got a motion and a second. So all in favor of adding this amendment to the bill, please say aye. Any opposed? The amendment is added. And the next amendment we're looking at is drafting code 5328. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor of adding it to the bill, please say aye. And any opposed? The ayes have it. So without objection, we'll roll these all into one. So I see no objection. And so they're rolled into one. And Chairman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Appreciate your indulgence. What the original bill does, we've adopted two amendments, but the original bill did is a cleanup bill, basically just for things like Sports Wagering Advisory Council. We're going to change them to the Wagering Council because there's not so much in an advisory role. They're in more of an administrative role now. So it's basically procedure in nature. It's basically a cleanup bill. Amendment 2, 5813 did a couple things. What it does, it removes the requirement and mandate that our providers gather their statistics and information through official league data. So it's going to take that requirement away and allow them to gather their information from other places other than just one. It also cleans up a tax issue. Right now, they have to hold back a certain amount of a tax to submit to the state. A handle tax is what it is. We're going to clean it up and just say, look, that's a 1.85% tax straight across the board. That's how much it is for your handle tax. That's what gets submitted. So we thought that was a more fair and equitable way to do it, so everybody knows what they're doing. And then that last amendment there, 5328, handles an issue where they can deduct their federal franchise and excise tax off. That's something that was just left out inadvertently. It's in current practice, but it was left out in the amendment when it was drafted. So that's what I've got for y'all. So if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those, but ask for approval.
Thank you, Chairman. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsors. First of all, the current amendment, the first at sub, the 2%, we had a 2% fee that was going to be adjust the revenue stream instead of the 20% amount. I'd like to get a kind of an explanation. There we're going to 1.85, why we're gone to from 2% to 1.85. And so I got several questions, but that's the first one.
Sure. And you know, this is something that's been done in other states. I think that as we move from that 10% adjusted gross income, they're holding that. They have to submit it to the state. There's confusion about how that's done. So then we'll say, okay, we said 2%, right? This sounds fair. As we worked through that, we thought, well, we want to be as business friendly as we can, and we're not looking to poach and make money off these folks, right? So we came down to knock that to 1.85. It still increases revenue. It's going to make plenty of money. We just want to try to be as business friendly as possible, because the more money these folks make, the more money the state's going, the more tax revenue is going to be there, right? So I think we just thought that may be just a more favorable business friendly position as we move forward.
Chairman Bricken.
Well, I kind of halfway appreciate that. But, you know, the whole purpose for the sports gambling was to allow these businesses in the state, but to generate revenue for the states to go for education, local government, and such. So they're going to make an awful lot of money. And I thought the 2% made a lot of sense. I wish we'd have kept it at 2%. Again, that's because my issue is this, the 1.8, I think it was calculated to be relatively revenue neutral, generating to the state roughly the same amount that we received this past year or expect to receive. Is that correct?
Chairman.
I think that's how I understand it.
Just bear with me here. Next year, when the total $4 billion of gambling goes to $5 billion, my expectation would be the industry would come back and said, well, gosh, let's go to 1.65%. You'll generate the same amount of money at the $5 billion level. So, you know, I just feel like we need to put a stake in the sand. And I thought the 2% was a very fair amount. It did generate a little bit more money, but that's fine. I think hopefully the state will very much benefit with the additional money. So again, I'll just stop there. But the other issue, and I kind of would like on the amendment 5328, if someone, because I haven't seen the fiscal note on this one, but the deduction of the federal excise tax, because I would certainly like to know the amount of federal excise tax that they expect to deduct in their calculation. Do you have anybody that can tell us that information?
Chairman.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it's important to know this. This is in current practice. When these amendments were drafted, it was inadvertently left out. So as I understand it, and yes, we do have two folks here from the advisory council. We have Mr. Boring and Ms. Maxwell. Maybe I'll speak to that. But as I understand it, Representative Bricken, this was something that just was left out and is currently being done and in practice as well.
That's fine, but I certainly like to know the magnitude of it because if I understand the 1.85%, if it passes, the gross revenue, the $4 billion times 1.85% minus the excise tax will be what the state receives. And I think we just need to be certain we know what magnitude of dollars that is.
Chairman, are you asking to go out of session to hear from them?
If the sponsor, it's up to the sponsor if he has that information or not. If not,
And I do,
okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I misspoke. This is new. This is something new. It'll impact the tax about $189,000. $189,000.
All right.
I'm
Chairman
sorry.
Bricken.
It's the 189, it will be a reduction in state revenue.
That's correct, Representative.
Okay.
But also, I mean, if you got them there, what is this is just federal excise tax, not state excise tax. Is that correct? So, all right.
All right. You're good?
No, let me say with this, does this have anything to do also with the 750 application fee? Is that going to be changing for new licensees and renewals of licenses.
Chairman.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Bricken. What this is, as I understand it, new licensees will pay the $750,000. And in the amendment there, it does show specifically how it's going to be on a sliding scale for existing businesses.
Is that scale been published?
Yeah, it's in the amendment, sir. It should be. An amendment coded 5813, section 4211, A, B, and C should cover that.
Okay, I just have the summary of the amendment. I
Okay.
apologize. I don't see the scale, but can you give me the range of what that scale would be for renewals roughly?
Chairman.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm going to read from the amendment. 11A, $750,000 for operators with total wagers in a calendar year equal to or exceeding $500 million. $500,000 for operators with total wagers in a calendar year less than $500 million and greater than $100 million. And $250,000 for operators with total wagers in a calendar year of $100 million or less. And any additional information required by council by rule.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman, are we good then? Okay. Representative Beck, did you want to, were you wanting? Okay, all right, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, how does the leagues feel about the removal of the official league data requirement in the bill?
Chairman.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that question. They're not happy with that because it is a mandate that all these companies use the one source for that information. So they are not happy with losing that mandate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we've got a question called on the bill. All in favor of House Bill 1362 as amended, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. And okay, Chairman, you're headed out to finance.
Thank you so much, members.
Thank you. And Speaker Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just noticed we have a former member of this body that just snuck in the back there, Eddie Oakley. Eddie, would you stand up?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go out of session for just 1 minute. We're going to get our chairman back up here. So we're recessed for 1 minute.
Okay, sorry for the delay. It is that time of the year, as we all know. We're in and out of committees. So anyway, it's good to be back. Chairman Eldridge, thank you very much for filling in for the opening for this one this week. All right, let's get focused on the calendar, and the next would be item number 12. And Chairman Halsey has notified us that he wants to roll that one for 1 week. 1 week. And we'll gavel that one in. Okay. Moving on to item number 13, which is HJR 5. And that, yes, Chairman Todd, you, sir, are recognized.
Thank you.
No
Mr.
amendments. You're ready to go, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to have you back, sir.
Thank you.
And your vice chair did an exceptional job, I will say. This resolution makes an application to Congress as provided by Article 5 of the Constitution of the United States of America to call a convention limited to proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States to set a limit on the number of terms to which a person may be elected as a member of the United States House of Representatives, and to set a limit on the terms a member may be elected to the United States Senate. This effort is currently active in 19 states. And we are well on our way to completing this process for calling for a very narrow Article 5 convention. I will be glad to take any questions. We've
Need
been
a
through
motion
this.
and a second here. Yeah, we got it. Motion and a second. Any further remarks, Chairman?
Sure. I've been asked that, certainly we voted on this before, but when we ran this through this committee before, I think a year or two ago, the Senate did not ended up taking it up. They ran out of time. And so we're bringing it back to get it into the official posture.
All right. Okay. Yes. Chairman Powers, you are recognized, sir.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this forward. I guess the only question I have, and I think we've kind of talked about this before, and I don't know if there's been any changes. Do you know what the actual term limit, the amount or the number of time, the time frame for each one of these? Have there been anything proposed or is that just going to be done at the convention?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for that question. Very important. There are no proposed limits at this point. This resolution doesn't state any limits whatsoever or make a suggestion. But once this convention is called, we would then select our delegates to go to the convention, and then we would instruct them on what our desires are as a legislature.
Okay.
Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, all right. All right. Chair Lady Rudder, you are recognized.
I have a question about, we're going to send delegates to this convention, and all the discussion is around term limits. But would you verify for me your opinion? If we open this convention, is term limits all they're allowed to discuss, or will they be discussing any other articles of the Constitution they would like to change at that time?
Chairman Todd.
All this resolution authorizes is the one single item of term limits for Congress and the Senate. Nothing else. Our delegates would not be directed or allowed to debate or discuss any other constitutional amendment.
Chair Lady, follow up.
That gives me pause, because I don't necessarily, I'm not saying I don't believe your intentions, but I don't know that if we send delegates to a convention, that they would not open up other articles in the Constitution. And I don't know that, personally, I'm ready to give that authority to anyone, because I think the Constitution is a pretty wonderful document as it is today. Although I certainly feel the heartburn for term limits of Congress. And I wish there was some other way to get there. But for me, this is not the avenue by which to do that. So thank you.
All right, moving on to Chairman Jernigan. You're recognized.
Chairman, will there be a separate bill about delegates, or is it in this bill?
Chairman Todd.
Thank you for that question. And to follow up on the previous statement as well, in 2014, this General Assembly passed what is currently known as the Faithful Delegate Law. So that is that current version is extremely valuable because it allows the General Assembly to select the number of commissioners. We appoint the commissioners, and then we give them the actual purpose of what their job is and hold them to that. And they are required under law to abide by our instructions. So they're not allowed to assent to. My microphone went off. They wouldn't be able to assent to any other amendments that would be proposed. And there've been other concerns that, okay, just what if, in the outside chance that this were to go off the rails and we come up with some kooky amendment that would be detrimental to this United States. It would take 38 states to ratify any change to the Constitution whatsoever. Nothing changes with the Constitution unless 38 states ratify whatever comes out of this convention. So it's a very high bar. I truly believe that once we get close to 34 states passing this resolution, Congress is going to act on their own. Congressman Burchett was here a few minutes ago, and he has been a tremendous supporter of this effort in Congress to put term limits on themselves. And I believe that's exactly what would happen, because they really would rather make the rules instead of us making those rules.
Follow up, Chairman Jernigan.
Yes, sir. I'm going to follow up on what Chair Lady Rudder said. I understand the law that we passed, but since we're in theoretical land, because this has never happened, our delegates get up there and one of our delegates decides that they want to participate. So they waltz right down to federal court and federal judge says, yes, you can participate. At that point, supremacy clause overrides our state law. And so then they're allowed to participate. And so those are unknowns. I'm just gonna be upfront with you. I'm against all Article 5s that come up here for a variety of reasons. But that's one of my greatest concerns, is that there is a scenario that Tennessee is not in control if that one member goes down, that delegate goes down and gets a writ from federal court that says you can participate. So,
Chairman Todd, we have a request here for testimony, and I think on your behalf, I mean, if I think so. But anyway, but we next, well, I'm sorry, Chairman Jernigan, follow up on anything else there? Okay. Chair Lady Littleton, you're next. You're next. Do you want to go ahead with your question, or would you want to bring on the test? Okay, sir. Shall we? Let's go out of session. And who is it now? Aaron. Aaron, where's Aaron? There's Aaron. Okay. Aaron, come on up. Pull up stool. Activate that mic. Push the button where it lights up red. Scoot up and tell us, identify yourself, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Aaron Duquette. I am the Central Regional Director for the advocacy organization U.S. Term Limits.
And if I may, I'm sorry, Aaron, excuse me, but I do need to interrupt. We got 3 minutes. You got 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Go get them.
So, well, yeah, before you is a resolution really to bring about some semblance of a citizen legislature in Washington. In the states, almost all of them are part-time legislatures. You have your own jobs, your own businesses that you run while you're trying to do legislative work. In Washington, D.C., the opposite is the truth. And it's a codified system where we've seen an increasing trend toward professionalization in the last 40 years, especially. And accordingly, the public has been increasingly screaming about this issue. It polls around 80% nationally and locally in any state that you look in. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everyone sees that Congress is an institution that is starting to fail because of its codification. Just an example of this, last year in the midterm elections, there was a 100% reelection rate among U.S. senators who ran for their seats. The only turnover was due to retirements. And people are starting to wonder, why are there so many people that are 80 plus in Congress? Well, it's because they've been there 20, 30, 40 years beforehand, and now they're in the positions of chairmanships, leaderships, and so forth. And so this is a nonpartisan issue. It's something that the voters really want. They want to have better choices at the ballot box. They want to be able to break up the self-protective power that the incumbency in Washington, D.C. codifies around itself. It's something that Congress is not going to propose on their own, as Chairman Todd has alluded to. There actually is word that we'll actually see the first term limits vote in Congress in the last 30 years coming up this year. But they're not going to pass it anytime soon with a 2/3 supermajority in both chambers unless the states stand up and push back and make sure that they threaten to do this for them. When they get close to 34 states, guess what? Congress is going to look at that and say, should we propose it or should they? Right now, they're not going to, but when we get close, that'll happen. That's actually what happened with presidential term limits. That's how we got the 22nd Amendment, because the states mounted the pressure to compel Congress to do the right thing. You mentioned Congressman Burgett is a big champion of term limits there. He can't do it alone. There's a lot of good guys, actually right from Tennessee, that are really leading on this fight there, but we need to get the rest of the institution on board. This is the way to do it, is to get term limits on Congress. And with that, I think that's what I have for you.
Sure. Okay, very good, Aaron. And I'm sure we've got some questions lining up here. And we will begin with Representative Miller. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's more of a statement than a question, but what I'm thinking about, this is something that we want to impose on Congress, United States Congress, but we certainly wouldn't impose it on ourselves. And one reason that we wouldn't is because I've often heard this, well, I'm just part-time. I've never considered myself a part-time legislator. I've considered myself just as full as a congressman, probably part-time pay, but certainly not part-time. And when I hear people continue to say that, I'm saying, how do I define a legislator as being part-time? 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week? In my 30 years, I promise you, when I'm in session, I'm in session. When I'm not in session, guess what? I'm working. I'm working. I receive calls on Sundays, on weekends. I go to meetings on weekends. Stop calling me a part-time legislator. It's to the point now that it's a little insulting. And I just wanted to say that, Mr.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Miller. And we, Mr. Burkett, let's see. I don't think we have anyone else. Questions before we go back? Do we? I'm sorry. Yes, Chairman Powers, you're recognized, sir.
Yes. Thank you. And in regards to my part-time legislator over there, I just wanted to mention a few things. He is correct. We are considered part-time, and I think that's what the founders wanted. All the founders had another job. They were lawyers. They were farmers. They had other professions, and I don't think Congress was ever meant to be a full-time job. And so that's what's happened over the years. They're a full-time job with full-time pay. And if we could change that one thing, if we can make them part-time legislators or considered to be that like we are, where they had to have another job and they had to go to church and Walmart and see all the constituents every day like we do, and go to things on weekends like Representative Miller was talking about. We're always doing events and everything. And if they were doing that now, I don't even think term limits would be needed, to be honest with you. But in a situation where we're at now, they build up a war chest because they've been there for a long period of time. If one of us try to run against them, we're looking at trying to raise $10 million to unseat a congressman. And a lot of us have been unseated, and we see a lot of turnover here, as it is because we're part-time and people keep up with what we're doing. And so I think that's one of the reasons it was needed. And I think that's why James Madison was such a proponent of it. And why don't you talk a little bit about that, if you don't care, why Madison thought Article 5 was so important? And I know it is to so many people and to our Constitution, why we needed to have this other avenue to amend the Constitution.
Mr. Burkett.
I'm on now. Sorry. I guess I would say, the founders were wise to craft the document that they did with all the provisions that were included. And I would include in that the subsequent Bill of Rights that came with it, very short order. Actually, the first Article 5 application was for a Bill of Rights to make sure that the this new government would make good on its promises for a Bill of Rights to bring the two factions, Federalists and Anti-Federalists, together on the same page and move the nation forward. I think they were wise and also humble enough to kind of recognize that you've got this provision in Article 5, which is not only the state's convention route, but it's for Congress as well. They knew that from time to time, maybe circumstances would change or there would be something that they missed, that we need to put amendments in place in order to preserve the Union and move things forward. We saw that in the 1950s with the presidential term limits, and Congress finally acted after a couple decades of resisting to put term limits on the presidency, and I think now is the time to do so for Congress.
Thank you, Aaron. And what we are, we got to be cognizant of our time now remaining. Is there any quick follow-up there, Chairman Power?
Just a quick
Sure,
follow-up.
go- go ahead.
We were talking about going off the rails a while ago and maybe getting off of the, if we had some concern is that we might have a runaway convention or whatever, but we know that if we limit it to this one particular thing, we got to have 34 states to vote on this. We'd have to have 38 states to ratify some type of ill-conceived notion or anything like that. Would you want to just talk to that? I mean, I know we've never done this before, but I realize there's a purpose there and why the founders put it in our Constitution to allow us to do it, that there would not be a runaway type convention.
Quickly, Mr. Burkhart, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say, that delegates to a convention don't have any more authorization to propose any other amendment but term limits any more than this committee has to take up the agenda from the Education Committee and start passing their bills. It's just null and void. You can come out there and tell them that you did, but they would just kind of laugh and say, well, we're meeting at 1. And so that's in a nutshell what it is. It's limited to the scope of the call.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Powers. Further questions now to Mr. Burkhart. See none, no objection. We are going to go back into session, and now we are turning our attention to Chair Lady Littleton. Chair Lady, you're recognized. Are you good? Okay. She says she is good. So now we will see how good Chairman Todd is. So Chairman Todd, back to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully this won't be a judgment on me. Just to answer a previous question about the delegates and our law, TCA 318-109 says that our delegates can be recalled and replaced by this legislature. It also says in 318-104 that votes outside of their instructions, if they happen to vote outside of their instructions, their vote is null and void. It says in same section that if they vote outside of their instructions, they forfeit their position. And it's also a Class E felony punishable by up to 6 years in jail for a commissioner to vote outside of the resolution calling for the convention or the further instruction from the General Assembly. That's in 318-106. So we have a very solid delegate law. And certainly if all commissioners, this is also in 318-105, if all commissioners happen to vote outside of their instruction, then Tennessee's application for the convention is rescinded automatically. So we have a lot of safeguards put in place, and I feel very confident that our predecessors have put in some very strong safeguards to make sure that this is controlled, that it cannot go off the rails. And again, we have the fail-safe in the Constitution now that it still takes 38 states to ratify anything coming out of this convention. So it will certainly be something that's very uniting and very supported across this country before we'd ever see it come back for a vote.
All right, further questions? It looks like we are all geared up here, ready to take a vote on this one, and I see no objection to the calling of the question. Let us vote. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. No. House Bill or HJR 5 will pass and move on to calendar and rules, sir. Now we have 10 minutes. We're going to move on to the good chair. Chair Carr is now, he is with us. He has been a very busy guy today. He's coming up with item number 14, House Bill 297, And Chairman Carr, you are recognized. You have a motion and a second and no amendments. You're a lucky man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. All
You
this
may
bill,
proceed, sir.
thank you. All this bill does is it allows the county clerks do not have to post when we're having hunting seasons or anything like now. And it's posted on the website for the TWRA, and that's all this bill does.
All right, questions to the sponsor? We got a call for the question on the bill. No objections. Let us vote. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. You are moving on to Finance, Ways and Means, sir. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Thank you, sir. Item number 15, House Bill 407. Chairman Reedy, you are recognized, sir, and you have an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The drafting
We
code
got
is
we got a motion and a second. Now let's draw our attention to the amendment. Drafting code, sir, is
5546.
that is correct. And you have a motion, and yeah, we got a second on the amendment. So though, let us see no objections to the voting on this one. Let us vote on Amendment 5546 and add it to the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. It is now on the bill. And Chairman Reed, it's good to have you with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You are recognized.
And quickly on this, it is pertaining to the paddle sports businesses. It only requires TWRA paddlecraft outfitter permit when using TWRA boat ramps or property to put in or take out. Limits report for permit holders to once per year instead of the 3 times per year. Eliminates TWRA's authority to regulate all aspects of the outfitter business, which was authorized by the 2018 legislation. Strengthen the confidentiality of proprietary data submitted to the agency. And then TWRA safety regulations will remain in effect statewide. Per the bill, Mr. Chairman, where you heard it last week, the TWRA came back with dates, and so the dates were changed instead of what they read now is beginning October 31st of 2024. Reduces from the 3 to 1 the number of reports that must annually be provided to the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency from commercial outfitters regarding non-motorized vessels activities taking place on Tennessee waters, Mr. Chairman.
And they met in the middle. Everybody's pretty much happy,
yes,
aren't
sir.
they, now at this point in time? All right, any questions to the sponsor? We got a question on that bill, and I see no objections. Let's vote. Those in favor of House Bill 407 as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, no. And I didn't hear a one. The ayes have it. And you are moving on to calendar and rules. Chairman, congratulations. Be careful on the ride out of here.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving on to item 16, everyone's friend. Representative Shaw, you're recognized, sir, on House Bill 106. And we got a motion and a second, but 1036, I'm sorry. We have an amendment, though, and would you please give us that drafting code, sir?
It is 3011
No, that's not it.
That's not the one?
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Hold
Take
on,
a-
I got another. How about this one? 004238.
There you go.
There we are. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
There's my man right there.
Yes. That's it.
All right, we got a motion and a second on this one, and I don't see any objections. Let's vote. Let's get this amendment on the bill. Those in favor, yeah, we got it. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and it is now on the bill. Representative Shaw, you are recognized. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment makes the bill, and the amendment adds the new exception indicating that a defined benefit plan established and maintained by a local government employee that is supplementary to the employee's participation in the TCRS program is exempt, providing that the local government plan was established prior to the effective date. And the total combined employee employment contributions do not exceed 7%. And of course, the supplementary benefits are subject to the Internal Revenue's service limitation on the maximum retirement allowance payable 2 members. That's basically what the amendment
That's-
does. It makes a bill.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Representative Shaw. Any questions to Representative Shaw? Yes, we do. Chairman Bricken, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you just summarize the background for bringing this bill again?
Representative Shaw.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that question. Good question. We had a little bit of a problem in our own district with a couple of things, and the treasurer needed to make some adjustments, and he asked us to bring this to clarify that and to make sure that that would not happen again.
Okay, Representative Bricken, follow up.
So the state treasurer approves this amendment?
Yes,
Go-
sir.
Thank you.
It comes from the state treasurer's office. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Bricken. Any follow-up questions to the sponsor? I got it. You got it. Thank you. Got a question. I see no objections. Let us vote on House Bill 1036 as amended. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. And you are riding out on with the Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative
members.
Shaw, thank you. And 5 minutes remaining. Everyone's favorite coming up to the podium with a beautiful blue suit on. House Bill 706. That'll be item 17 on your calendar. Do we have a motion and a second? Of course we do. Anyone wearing a beautiful suit like that gets a motion and a second. We have an amendment, do we not, Chairman?
Yes, sir, we do, Mr. Chairman.
Could you give us that tracking code, please?
Let's try 4453.
Perfect. All right, we got a motion. We got a second on 4453. Let's get it on the bill. Let's vote. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. And it is now on the bill. And Chairman Doggett, you're up. You're recognized.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and committee. What we are doing here, we are bringing law enforcement back into with some of the other return to work programs that we have for those that have retired. They'll have to sit out of service for 60 days. And then when they return to work, they can draw 70% of their TCRS retirement funds while also getting 100% of whatever that salary for that position might be.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you for that explanation. Yes, we do. Representative Beck, you're recognized.
Thank you. To the sponsor, I've been contacted by several law enforcement, and when they go back to work for like one of the community colleges, they can only get 85% of the posted pay. So their concern is that they're getting a 15% off the posted pay, and now you're taking 30% off their retirement. That's not much of an incentive to go back and help us fill these positions. So, tell me how I can relieve this officer's fears.
All right, there you go, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.
recognized.
Chairman. Excellent question. This is replacing that. That is currently what they are doing. This is going to bring us in line with other provisions that have allowed for this return to work for different professions in the state retirement system. So they'll be able to draw whatever the 100% salary would be. So I think the fiscal note uses an average salary of $55,000. So if that's what an officer of that rank or position would receive as a full-time pay, they would be able to receive those funds, but yet continue to draw 70% of their retirement. So they won't have that current 85% that will go away with this legislation.
Representative Beck, back to you.
So what you're saying is that the 85% of the posted amount is they'll be able to draw 100% of that now, and just their retirement reimbursement will be cut 30% to 70%, correct?
Chairman.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Very good. Thank
Representative
you.
Beck, no follow-up?
No
Okay.
follow-up.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think Chairman Dixie answered the question, but we're talking about former law enforcement officers. And are they coming back into the workforce? are they coming back into law enforcement or can they go into any other department, state government position?
Chairman Doggett.
This is return to work for retired law, excuse me, retired law enforcement officers. So in an effort to help with recruitment and retention, we're bringing these officers or have the option to come back after 60 days to go back into law enforcement. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, Representative Miller, good. Okay. Representative Miller is good. We're going to move now on to Representative Alexander. You're recognized.
I just wanted to make sure that when they go back, so they've finished their retirement, I mean, they're starting their retirement, they're no longer working back into the work, they go back to 100% of their retirement benefits. Once they are no longer going back into the workforce.
Chairman.
That's my understanding.
Yes, thank you. Once they decide to
They're-
officially,
they're
I'm
done and
through
done.
with
Yeah,
all of it.
Yeah,
I'm going to the House. I'm going to draw 100% of my TCRS.
thank you, Chairman.
Good. Okay. Representative Alexander says she's good. We're now at 45 seconds remaining out of this 90 minutes. Do we have any? Yes, go right ahead, Chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I had about 6 more pages of notes I would like
Oh.
to go over with everyone.
Well, I'm sorry. We'll just have to call you out of order then, won't we? We got a call for a question on the bill. Just stand by. Okay. Any objections to the calling of the question? I see none. We're going to vote. Let us vote. Those in favor of House Bill 706 as amended, please say aye. Those opposed, no. But the ayes have it. Now, with that, congratulations, Chairman Doggett. Now, we're going to move on to, yes, finance, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. Members, we got to go. We will remote this. We're going to gavel this in. We're going to roll the remainder of the bills to the top of next week's calendar. With that, I need a motion and a second, and we do to adjourn. We are officially adjourned.